But anyway, so, look, thanks for coming. This is awesome that you're here. And thank you for all the work that you're doing and being a great state senator for Nash County. You're my senator, and so thank you very much for doing such a wonderful job. And, you've been in the news here recently for a lot of things. One is Senate Bill 473, which you sponsored and wrote. And in addition, found a number of other people to co-sponsor it with you from all over the state. So tell us a little bit about that process of, making the sausage, if you will. I mean, Absolutely. I know we started with a conversation, and you were gracious enough to champion that effort in the Senate. But it wasn't just that. I mean, you had conversations with Beth Wood, with State Treasurer, with a number of other associations. So just walk us through that process, because I don't think everybody really fully understands the impact and the effort it takes to get something like that passed. It's much easier to kill stuff.
Right. Yes, it is. And it's designed that way.
Right.
It shouldn't be simple and easy to pass a law,
I agree with that.
So I fully witnessed that whole process with this bill. And, as a freshman senator,
right.
It was truly I was the primary sponsor of this bill, so I carried the vast amount of the load to get it passed and to lobby for it.
Right.
So, but yeah, it involved a lot of people. It was definitely a team effort.
Sure.
As you know, with your input.
Sure. And thank you for allowing me to have that input.
Absolutely.
It was certainly critical. That was obvious to me after the state auditor's report came to light, and you realize that nothing that had been issued was criminal. There was no criminality involved in it. So I went back and actually studied some more and realized that was pretty much the case on all of them. And how can that be? You, as a state senator, couldn't do half the things that we were cited for and stay out of jail. But anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, and to think that the state auditor's office puts all of that work and effort and resources into doing these types of investigations, and then there's no enforcement or consequences.
No.
It's very, very disturbing.
Well, and I would find frustrating if I were, in this case, Beth Wood. I would find it very frustrating.
Absolutely.
I'm just issuing a report. If you have some character, you may act on it. If you don't, then you don't have to.
Right. And the vast amount of time that it takes to go through and do these type of investigations, let alone the money and the resource, the personnel and everything else, so taxpayer money doing this. So I'm glad we were able to get it across the finish line.
Sure.
But yeah, we had input from Auditor Wood, from the Treasurer's Office, the local government commission.
And so what were some of the comments you were receiving from that group? Because I think that was kind of the first step for you. So it even makes sense to try to propose this. Can you find support in it? So what kind of feedback were they providing?
Well, they were incredibly frustrated also that the local governments that they were dealing with at the time, and now we see even more.
Sure.
I think today or yesterday, even the Treasurer's Office was asking the auditor to investigate Goldsboro on
similar issues.
Similar issues, haven't done an audit in 2 years, those kinds of things.
Right.
So, our elected officials, our local governments have responsibility to make sure these audits and financial reports are done.
Right.
But getting back to the state treasurer, he oversees the local government commission.
Right.
The state auditor is on the local government commission as well. And so they deal with these local governments, municipalities, county commissioners, and other like water,
public water, sewer, all those types of issues, bonds, I guess.
Yes,
yeah.
Some of that. So they, deal with these types of things a lot and have a lot of expertise with them and see where the issues are that they're dealing with statewide.
Right.
So
the thing I found funny since Senate Bill 473 passed is I've gotten several links from several friends all over the state who sent it to me for their city thinking that it was written for them.
Really?
Really. I mean, Greensboro fell in that category. There were a couple of other communities, I can't remember which ones, but those papers, I'll forward those articles to you. Okay. But everybody believes that it was to fix their particular municipal government, or many people do. And so that kind of tells you where the real problem lies. It really is a statewide issue, much less a local issue.
It's very much statewide. I mean, the auditor will tell you she's got maybe 31 in her queue now investigations to do, and she told me that 25 of them were local governments, mostly municipalities.
Wow.
So
25 local. Wow.
So it's.
And they take months to do.
They take
a
lot of time and resources.
And she's got a nice sized office, but it's not that big.
That's right. That's right. And so, so we got input from the County Commissioners Association,
Right.
the League of Municipalities, and also the Nonprofit Association.
Sure.
So met with all of them. They had a seat at the table when we were discussing the provisions of the bill, and so. I'm glad that I had their input and that
Right.
they knew, what we were trying to accomplish with this legislation.
Right, right. And I think it's pretty straightforward. I think it's pretty simple, too. I mean, it just really means I can't be in leadership and something that I'm giving money to. I mean, it's really no more complicated than that.
It's very common sense, and it's very timely knowing that on the front end, if you are going to file for office,
Right.
that this is what you are required to do. I mean, I served as a county commissioner. I was
Sure.
on a nonprofit board.
Sure.
So I think the question you have to ask yourself is, which is more important? Do you want to be an elected official and serve on a nonprofit board?
Right.
Or do you want to be an elected official and not serve on that board?
Sure.
So if you're going to do both, then you just have to know going into it that you're going to have to recuse yourself if it's part of your budget.
And I think it should be that way anyway. I mean, that's just common sense. I mean, in my own partnerships in business with other folks, if it looks like I'm self-dealing, I always make sure my partner understands the issue, understands what we're doing, and is okay with it. And if they're not, then I just don't do it because it's just not worth it.
It's not worth it. Yeah, and nonprofits these days, they're not like the volunteer boards that, I served on, long time ago. Everybody was a volunteer. Nobody got paid. These days, you're getting grants, federal grants, state grants, local grants, and you have paid staff.
Right.
So
Right.
you have to look at it differently. It's almost just the same as owning a business. The conflict of interest.
Well, it is a business.
It is.
They are all businesses. I mean, it's you measure profit by surplus, not by earnings that you distribute.
True.
And hospitals have been that way for years. Well, that's a whole other topic, and I'll probably step on way too many toes by talking about that. But anyway, but that's that is what that is. And so anyway, the process went through. It was read pretty quickly in the Senate and got through.
It was.
And then got stuck in the House. It got read pretty quickly. And then went to, I guess, the Rules Committee. Is that right?
It did.
Remember
right.
this correctly? And sat there. So how did you get it out of there?
So it was very, very frustrating.
Right.
I think if it had gone through the process quicker, there would have been not as much confusion as there was in the House with the House vote. But it passed 42-6, I believe, in the Senate.
Right.
Then it went over to the House in May.
Right.
There was a crossover deadline in May, so it crossed over to the House.
Just barely, if I recall.
That's right. It was maybe like the last day or two before crossover deadline, and then it was assigned a committee. It was referred to the State and Local Government Committee.
Makes sense.
Vetted through that. It passed unanimously. It went through the other Judiciary Committee in the House and passed fine with there unanimously. And then it was sent over to Rules, and it kind of got stuck there in Rules for months from June after the end of June until November.
Right. And we can talk about all kinds of speculation or whatnot, but I think it came out the last session of the last day, the last hour going into the break, and I mean it came that close to having being referred to, I guess, to the short session because it had crossed over. I guess it would still be eligible, but another delay.
That's right, it was, and I mean it was the Monday after Thanksgiving that the bill was addressed in the House. It went through Rules Committee in the House, and nobody wanted to be in session in November to begin with. And then, the Monday after Thanksgiving, it was, right before we were going
Everybody wants to go home, start making cooking, right?
Exactly, me included. And we were trying to finish up business and wrap up.
Right.
And everybody was ready to go home, and nobody wanted to be there. And with the gap in time from basically the end of June to November, it was not on anybody's radar.
Right. Right.
we tried to contact as many people as we could, and definitely had help from Representative Winslow and Gaillard in the House. So they did their part, and but just there was a lot of confusion on some issues.
Well, I think that's a good point, and it did cross over political lines. I mean, Democrats voted for it. Our local representatives did, for sure, and obviously the one out in Nash County did as well, and I'm grateful for both of those and their play in that. The thing I thought was most interesting, and I watched it all through follow through the committees and just get stuck, but I thought it was interesting that the governor really didn't speak to the issue, and it was pretty clear he was going to let it pass. He wasn't going to veto it. But then when he got questioned, when he came to an open house in Rocky Mount, he actually came out and signed it and made a big deal out of that. So I thought that was an interesting statement too. I mean, he doesn't normally do it in that manner, and but I was glad that he did.
Absolutely, I was very relieved.
Yeah,
because. You never know. I mean,
never take anything for granted.
Never take it for granted.
Right.
And I was just very pleased that he did sign that, and didn't just let it become law, but he did sign it and, in fact, endorse that those provisions. Because I mean, how could you not?
I don't know. I just really don't understand that, and I don't understand how you could even make it an issue. I did see the League of Municipalities said something about they may want to try to modify, but I don't even know what you would modify on that. It just doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, moving on to other things, you've got to run again. The time is, every 2 years. That's just too short, in my opinion. I think the senator at least ought to have 4-year terms, at least. You had a 4-year term as a county commissioner, didn't you?
Exactly. Yes. And some states do have senators as 4-year terms, and their representatives are 2.
Well, it feels reasonable to me. It should be. It's hard to get something done in a space of 2 years. Really get something done. But anyway, I'm grateful you're running it again. But you got a little change in what your district is that you're representing. So tell us a little bit about that.
So on Tuesday, the 3-judge panel approved the maps that were drawn by the General Assembly and passed through the legislature. So that my district will be Nash County, all of Nash County, all of Franklin County, and all of Vance County.
Okay.
So
that's an unusual pairing. You don't normally hear Vance and Nash County even in the same.
Exactly.
It's just a little different geography. So anyway, demographics feel good to you. I'm sure you've done all that research and kind of where you feel like you really need to focus. Clearly, you're going to have Nash County. Right.
Hopefully, I'll have good name recognition and in Nash County, my home county that I've served for many years, and I also served Franklin County when I was in the House. So I'm excited to be back in Franklin County too. That was very good since I had been there before. And then but Vance is the new one, so I will be spending time there, getting to know people, and I have met a few people up there already. So hope to get up there some more, do some fundraising up there, and do some polling to see, what the issues are that are on the people's minds.
And you
in
don't
this
have
district.
a problem. There is nobody that's going to challenge you on the Republican side, is there?
Not that I know of.
I've not heard of anybody. That's why I was asking. But your opponent will be. Do you know your Democratic opponent?
I do have an opponent from Franklin County on the Democrat side. Yes.
Well, we'll pray for their soul. Well, we support you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So anyway, what else am I missing? That you've done a lot of other things in the Senate, and so maybe you ought to share a little bit about that. Because a lot of folks know who you are, but a lot of work gets done that nobody really hears or sees about. Yeah.
That's true. There's a lot of work to be done. And I will say that, in the Senate, I was in the House, so I have a little background there. And with the Senate, there's more people in your district. It's a larger district.
Right.
So I have really felt that workload.
Right.
With the
really,
increase.
It's been that noticeable. People have reached out and touched you.
Yes,
wow.
Yes. And you're thinking about, I had 2 counties before, but it just seemed like more going on, more people to talk to. And then when you think about budget and the needs for the district, there were a lot of requests, especially like for water and sewer issues with our towns.
Okay. Okay.
So that was a positive experience with the budget this year. We had a surplus, and so we were able to do our head chairs with the finance committee kind of said it was not a good thing when you have extra money, because it's too tempting, right?
Everybody wants to touch it. Everybody can apply. I find a lot more help spending money than I do making money, at least in my own life. So are you seeing a lot of issues related to the inflationary cycle that we're kind of finding ourselves in at the state level? I mean, I know we've had a surplus. I know we've been in pretty good shape. We have the luxury of being in the fourth fastest growing state in the country. So that certainly helps you from a revenue standpoint when people are moving in, they're paying taxes. But are you starting to see some of those types of pressures, or is it maybe a little bit early for us? We're kind of outgrowing it based on our population growth. Can you tell, or have you felt anything of that nature?
Well, I can. Well, just with all the people moving in, there's a housing shortage, especially for affordable housing. We're looking at our roads and our infrastructure. There's a lot of traffic these days. We're having to maintain roads, build roads, and then, of course, a issue that I worked on as a county commissioner is our broadband infrastructure. That is infrastructure.
Well, let's talk about that, because that's a huge issue. I mean, certainly as the mayor here, you start looking at the number of kids that just simply fell behind. I mean, just fell behind dramatically. And it sounds terrible, but at least we have McDonald's with Wi-Fi. I mean, there's some parts of the northeastern part of the state that the nearest McDonald's might be 50 miles apart. You know, and that's just trouble just to go find it. So how do we resolve that? Cities can't have that as a utility. Wilson's the last one. I'm a little jealous that they snuck in under the wire, and I think Salisbury also falls in that category. But what is the solution for that? How do we solve that problem?
Well, it's I think it's a competition issue too. The companies are quite territorial.
Sure.
And so, but we're finding more internet providers are coming on the scene, and the money, there's federal grant money available also. So the money part of it is huge when you're talking about laying that kind of infrastructure with fiber. But the technology is changing all the time, and I know that the county's looking at the fixed wireless and have a pilot program with that. So the county commissioners have really been on the ball.
Well, you were part of that board that approved that, and I tell you, I thought that was one of the most progressive things that we've done in this part of the world in a long time, and I think it really was forward-looking and forward-reaching. So how is that experiment going? It was cloud-wise, if I recall. It's basically wireless internet broadband service, so that the entire county would be able to pick up or utilize that. And I don't know that everybody even knows that, but it's a great thing. So what is the saturation rate now? How much of the geography of Nash County is being touched yet?
I wish I knew.
I know, it's a little outside of what you've been doing for the last couple of years.
Yeah. But I know that it's getting better.
Sure.
And so hopefully those underserved areas, and hopefully we don't have as many totally unserved. Right. I know there are a lot of underserved areas in our county. And even in the city, I was told some places that need better internet availability.
I can tell you, well, my neighborhood, my broadband is awful. It's just awful. I mean, I can't, it's just awful. There's no other way to say it. And so I've signed up for Elon Musk's service.
I did too.
And that's going to come in the next couple of months. So I'm looking forward to see if that actually is a reasonable competition. But that's also some of the challenges you have when you start talking about Wi-Fi and broadband in rural areas in particular. The infrastructure to put in fiber optics or even the old coaxial cable like we traditionally have it's just cost prohibitive. You can't do it. But the wireless is a whole different ballgame, and it'll be interesting to see if the satellite system actually works. I remember one enterprise we had, Mailbox, et cetera, was the name of the company. That became the UPS stores. And so they had an initiative. We would use Hughes VSAT services to upload and download. And it was pretty decent on the download, but the upload, gosh, it was awful. So I hope that this is improved. It'll be interesting to see how that all works out.
I hope so too. We have a friend that is doing a test program with Starlink, I believe it
Okay,
is.
sure. Yeah.
And in then more of the northern part of the county, and so he loves it.
Good.
He said it works great.
Well,
so I'm like, hey, can I be?
Yeah,
I'll
exactly.
volunteer to do that.
And that may be the solution. That may already be present. So, what other issues you're seeing? We were talking about infrastructure, particularly when we start talking about broadband, wireless. What other issues are you seeing out there that are coming to your desk that you're having to really kind of think through?
So I get a lot of calls about small businesses and
Sure.
not having employees.
Right.
It's
Well, what's the solution on that? 'Cause if you can bottle that up, you need to leave office. You can make $1 bazillion out of it.
exactly. I mean, we can't keep extending payments,
Right.
and for people. And I know, we have unemployment benefits for those who've lost their job and don't
Sure.
have employment, but we have help wanted signs everywhere.
Everywhere at every level. I mean, look, I'm invested in some Wendy's down in Georgia, and we've got some locations which said shut down and close them for a week or two, and then hire the staff. You can go back up. But it's amazing that even an enterprise like that is so dependent on just finding folks that want to come to work. It's crazy. It's
It is.
the damnedest thing I've ever seen.
And of course, we're in agriculture, and we've been dealing with this for the last 15, 20 years,
Sure
not
you have.
being able to get the labor that we need locally. So we have to use migrant labor.
Sure.
The H-2A program is
Sure.
what we're a part of, that
Yep.
we can get dependable labor to
Through the
harvest our
USDA.
crop.
Sure, I get it.
So, when you don't have available labor here,
Right.
you find another source, and that's worked for us. And we've been lucky to get some of the same ones that come back, and
Sure.
they're good workers.
Sure.
So
Sure. Well, I've had to do it too, finding physicians, usually through the J-1 visa program, but it's basically the same concept. You're coming over for a period of time, either working off student debt, and you're providing a service in underserved areas, and then that's what allows you to be in the country and make the wages you make. So
That's
it's
right.
interesting.
It is, and we talk about economic development a
Right.
lot to help, especially in eastern
Sure.
North Carolina, rural parts of our state, and
Sure.
bringing industry here. But we have to have a reliable labor supply for those industries.
Well, that's been one of our challenges here locally. I know you know this as well. I mean, Rocky Mount City has an unemployment rate of somewhere around 6%. It bounces plus or minus, but that's higher than the state average, usually by about 3 percentage points. Kind of how it seems to work. Yeah, we have something in the neighborhood of 1,500 jobs in places like Cummings and Honeywell and Cheesecake Factory and all these advanced manufacturing facilities, and we can't seem to connect the two. And so it's a challenge that we've got to figure out how to solve. Of course, Norris over at the Gateways Partnership has developed what he calls Ramps East, working with the community college system to try to get folks to that basic level to be able to participate in that economy. And I think it's working, but it's a huge problem. It's a constant problem. And then somewhere along the way, it just feels like folks just decide they didn't want to work. I can't stand not working.
I agree. I'm the same way. And I think, when people have a job they go to, it gives them dignity.
Sure.
They're able to provide for themselves and their families. They're able to better themselves, hopefully,
Yeah.
and have the things that they need. So
Sure.
I just hope we can give them some incentive, maybe, but who knows, so that they'll have the desire.
Well, I think we can get them there. Well, look, I appreciate you coming. It's been absolutely awesome, and good luck to you. You certainly know you have my support, and I'm excited for you, and thank you for the great things you've done for our area.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm.